Hello, beautiful soul. I pray that you are doing well and that you are staying safe and that you are out of the initial freak out phase from this pandemic. And I pray that you're moving into, or you're well into, the inspired action phase. I am Dr. Andrea Pennington, author of the Real Self-Love Handbook, and also this new baby, The Top 10 Traits of Highly Resilient People, which I have created and compiled with 20 authors from around the world and besides me. So there's 21 stories in this book of real life survival. I think it's fortuitous that we released this book in January, and here we are in the middle of a pandemic where people are literally feeling like they're trying to sew together a parachute as they're free falling. So if you don't have a regular practice that has kept you resilient, like many of the yogis that I hang with, we do meditation and yoga and prayer and all sorts of things on a regular, ongoing basis. And that means that if you are building up your resilience muscles, you tend to be able to weather the storms of life without crumbling and withering away. And this is something that I have been fascinated by for most of my life, and that is resilience. What makes some people thrive in the face of challenges, bounce back even stronger, while other people seem to crumble or wither away. And this has been a personal mission of mine, as I have had family members who have suffered all kinds of different things and found different ways to cope, not always the healthiest ways to cope. And as a physician and acupuncturist, my background in trauma healing led me to work with people with addiction and eating disorders and trauma survivors. And we all respond to stress and adversity in our own way based on our nurturing that we experienced as children or even in the womb. And that nurturing environment, or abusive environment in some cases, it primes your nervous system. So in other words, your brain, your nerves, everything has been tuned and trained for dealing with threats to your survival. And that's what this corona pandemic is doing for people. It is tweaking their response system. Now, if you've lived a pretty stress-free life, this might be hitting you like, whoa, because we've never seen anything like this on a global scale. If you happen to have grown up in a stressful environment, so if you've taken the ACE quiz, you can find out your adverse childhood experience score, your ACE score. If you've scored 4 or higher, we know that you're at a long-term risk for certain health conditions, and that includes emotional health like depression and anxiety, addiction, and so on. But if you experienced any type of traumatic or stressful event in childhood, and again, this doesn't have to be like major abuse or abandonment, even if you moved a lot because your family was in, someone in your family was in the military, if you witnessed somebody else getting abused, or they had a health challenge and they were in the hospital, if anyone in your family was ever in jail or abused substances, all of those things increase your risk of having your whole nervous system tweaked, meaning instead of feeling safe and secure in the kind of boring routines of childhood for some, your body and your brain had to switch into being hypervigilant. And the reason that's important is because what I've heard is that there are some people who feel like their anxiety level is just through the roof. Even though in the first week or so, everyone was freaked out. People went into, the isolation thing and buying all the hand gel and the sanitizers and toilet paper. And then people went into lockdown. And of course, there were many people who were like, I don't want my freedom taken away. But that kind of going within because everyone was scared was normal. But around week 2 or 3, once people typically found that there was enough toilet paper for everyone, they got their food, they heard about government bailouts if they were worried about money, that's typically when most people started to like either just chill or they would go into solutions mode. But the people who experience some form of adverse child experience, or they happen to grow up with a parent who was stressed when they were a kid. So parents who either experienced abuse themselves or they were children of Holocaust survivors, people who served in wars, they too have had a tweaking of the central nervous system. And so we know that when you experience stress and drama and trauma in life, typically the brain is going to kick into high gear. It puts you in that fight, flight, freeze, or appease mode. And over time, if that stays up, it impacts your developing brain if you're a child or if you're in utero. And that can impact you later such that when a new stress comes on, your response is like way over the moon, like out of proportion to it. So this could be failing a test. All of a sudden it feels like it's the end of the world. Or it could be, someone doesn't want to go out on a date, or they don't text you back fast enough. And it feels like so on a scale, like so off the chart. And that's because we all experience this generational inheritance. So I'm bringing you up to date with all of that to say this. I got a few messages from people who were like, wow, Dre, you were like cranking out content and going live and doing all this stuff. And while one, I kind of felt judged, like, what are you saying? 2, I also recognized that this was my coping strategy. Now, some people, when they're stressed, they bake, like my daughter. I have been getting so many treats. I got some oatmeal cookies with chocolate. I got some zucchini banana bread and all sorts of great things. Some people bake, some people garden, some people cry, some people binge watch shows, some people binge on alcohol or sweet treats or other foods. Some people, just shut down. What I do, number 1, is I meditate. I'm trained in trauma recovery. I've been doing this for over 20 years as a physician, and I've lived long enough to see myself when I'm stressed and know that I do some dumb stuff. And so I don't do well if I'm in a panic or anxiety situation. I lived with anxiety for many years to the point where it got to a point where I just didn't want my life anymore. So I've been there, done that. So my default is to try to lower the stress response through breath work, through meditation, through meridian tapping, like EFT or TFT. And once I get the stress response down, then and only then do I go through kind of a meditative process to kind of figure out, what do I need to do next? And if you've seen, I teach something called the attunement meditation. It's a 5-step process, and it's all about tuning into the body, bringing yourself calm, tuning into compassion, in the world around you or for yourself, and then opening up your mind to higher wisdom and asking for insight. In my case, inspired action is step 4 of this process. I recommend that you don't do anything unless it's inspired action, because time has shown me in my own life and in the life of my patients and clients, when we just do busy work, when we just try to do stuff, it's reactionary, it's not always well thought out, and it's also oftentimes not even useful. In my own life, if I take the time to wait to see if it's truly inspired action, then I take action and I do it. So the reason I, went online and started doing group meditations is because I knew that there were a lot of people who didn't have that reflex, and doing guided meditations helps to bring calm to the body and brain. I know that if you can lower your stress and your anxiety level, you'll be less likely to snap or break or go off on somebody or lean to unhealthy coping mechanisms. So that was my initial reaction. It was like, this is just what I do. Then my second reaction, while some people were just binge eating or binge watching, I went into creative mode. That's my coping mechanism. I admit it. It's just what I do. Because there's something about channeling your energy. If I couldn't change the situation, for one, I got trapped in Iceland. I was on a trip to America. The America portion got canceled. I was in Iceland, couldn't get through to Expedia to get home. Drama. It was drama. Once I did get home, I went into, okay, I can't control what's going on outside. I need to stay inside and protect me and my family. What can I control? Because that energy, that anxiety, you've got to move it. If you don't move that energy, it will stagnate or it will go within and it will create dis-ease. Now, I continued my yoga practice, my meditation practice. I upped my qigong practice. I would move as much as I possibly could so I could move that energy. And then I went to Photoshop and Canva and Adobe Rush. And I even went back to iMovie and just started to create. Then I started getting calls from some of my doctor friends in America who weren't like me, going all online laptop lifestyle. And I hosted a masterclass to help them understand how to create online courses and do telehealth and do all these things. So if you're wondering like, okay, why is she such a machine? That was my coping mechanism. I admit it. That's what I do. And now that I feel like I'm in, a more of an acceptance state, which I hope that you are too, this is when it's like, okay, now what can I do that's inspired action? Not that hanging out on Canva and creating cute graphics wasn't inspired, because I enjoyed it. But it's important for us all to really develop that number one trait of highly resilient people, and that is insight. Insight into who you are, what makes you tick, and also what can calm you down and put you into the best state possible. Because it's without awareness, without insight, that we go off and do crazy stuff. You get into bad relationships and bad situations and ruts. So it sounds cliche now to say, use this time to go within. But that's literally what I've been doing. I've literally even gone in to figure out what else is behind all of this creativity and doing. Fortunately, I'm able to take those and channel them into goodness and living my mission. But it has been an opportunity for me as well to go within. And so I'm just inviting you to be mindful of these various stages of dealing with stress and anxiety during a situation like this pandemic. And as much as you possibly can, give yourself a break. Like, tune into compassion. See what you're doing, witness what you're doing, call it out, and be like, okay, I ate the whole box of... And then give yourself some compassion. Now, starting next week, I am going to be hosting everyone around the world every single day for 21 days for our compassion meditation series. I launched this back in 2016 or 15 after my second TED Talk, and I just wanted to give people a free way to practice daily the compassion meditation, which is also called the metta meditation. So back in 2015, I created it so that you'd get a little video, a little audio, and a little image and some quotes to just kind of inspire you. And then just for a few minutes a day, you tune in with many of us around the world practicing this compassion meditation, which is so good for your heart and your brain and your body and your relationships. And you heal and you neutralize and detox from the negativity. So be on the lookout for the signups for that, and then join us on this 21 days and see what transforms in your life. It's been clinically studied and proven to reduce anxiety, reduce anger and acting out, It even improves depression for people with borderline personality disorder. Like it's one of the meditative processes that has been the most studied by clinicians. So there you have it, my friend. I just wanted you to know that I am with you in this. I am going through this right along with you. I just have a different way of coping. So I pray that you're able to tune into some of these resources that I have for you, and that you will join me on this 21-day journey practicing compassion. Much love.